Hey everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design. Well, today I'm with my good friends at Stone Source, the place to go for a curated selection of natural stone, porcelain tile, ceramic tile, glass tile, and much, much more. And today we're going to take a tour of their showroom, a virtual one, and I'm going to take it with you. And we're going to see how it all works. Then we're going to view product, some of your faves, and some exciting new collections to get us all inspired, just what we like to do. Okay, everybody, I'd love to welcome my good friends, Joe McIsaac, the President and CEO of Stone Source. Hi, Joe, how are you?
Hello, Cindy, very nice to see you.
It's great to see you. And Ron Solano, Vice President of Product Development and Procurement for Stone Source. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Cindy, how are you doing?
Great. Well, you know, typically I'm seeing you, Joe, in the showroom, right?
Right. We love to use the showroom as a tool to bring people together, showcase product, have a good time, and be able to have more intimate one-on-ones. And so obviously these days it's a little bit more difficult.
Exactly. And I know that for a designer, it's a real treat whenever you're like going to go to Stone Source, even for me, go to Stone Source, see what's new. And so I know that the showroom is a big deal for you and you had to pivot really fast. So I'm very excited to hear about the virtual showroom. Tell me how it works.
So it's a great story because during the first few months of the lockdown, we were all very concerned about how we were going to interact with our clients and what was the digital virtual world going to be like when you couldn't visit people's offices, bring them to the showroom. And so, you know, we think with a challenge like that comes opportunity. So right. That's the concept of the digital showroom. It's a technology that exists. It's a 3D camera. You shoot the whole showroom with the camera, but the user experience, which has been used in real estate, you've probably seen it if you've ever done a virtual tour on any of the real estate sites. So we just haven't seen it adapted to showrooms. And we thought probably in April or May, let's order the camera and just shoot the showroom. So since then, it's just been tremendous response. We're able to walk through the entire showroom. We've got all of the products marked so that if you're interested in something that you see, you can zoom in on it, click on it, and it takes you to our website and you get more detail.
Right, so you were saying, so every product then is tagged in a way that is useful for a designer, right?
Exactly, and it's not cluttered. If you're not interested, you just go buy it. It has a little icon, and if you want to get more information, it's your choice. So it's been optimized for desktop, laptop, iPad, and telephone, and you can do it on the phone. I mean, most of the practice we did was on the phone because we figured that that's the major way people are going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. And so what you've created is, so you've created this virtual showroom, but at the same time, also a tool for the designers.
And you think about also that the showroom is a physical location, and we have 10 across the country. So you have to be within a X mile radius to visit the showroom. Now we have a showroom, and we picked our biggest showroom, the New York showroom that we shot, where you can be anywhere in the country and come to our showroom. So we think we've expanded the reach dramatically, and that people need to have the opportunity to use these tools in their home or as they move locations from the office to the home to any other place that they might be.
Yeah, and I know you were saying to me that it was like you can get through the showroom in 2 minutes, but of course you never would because you'd stop a million places to look at tile.
Exactly, and it's super intuitive. It's very straightforward. It's not a new technology. It's a new application of a great existing technology.
Yeah, and I know that all of these things are, all these questions are happening and how do we solve them? And we think of Stone Source as a leader. And in this case, you're like, okay, we got to lead, right?
Well, I think, under challenging times, it's like one of the things is you get a great opportunity to say, what can we do to make the most of a difficult situation? And by the way, if things were to be 100% normal and everybody's back to work, the digital virtual showroom would be a huge tool that we are going to have for the next 20 years. So
exactly. Some of the things that we're figuring out right now are things that will help us no matter what. When we get back in, you still have this tool.
With our ability to use this technology into the future it's accelerated the need to be able to have people view the showroom without coming in. This type of change has accelerated what is a normal course of the type of evolution of how we're going to communicate with our clients. Here's an interesting point. Our sampling did not change during the last 6 months. So people still want physical samples. But how do you figure out what samples you want and how do you get interested in the collections? And so the virtual showroom is the perfect tool.
I love it. Okay, wait. All right. So now I want to take the virtual tour. Okay, who's giving me the tour?
Well, I'm going to start. So
Okay.
we'll as you enter the showroom, one of the first things.
I'm so excited. I'm going to the showroom.
As you enter the showroom, one of the first things we wanted to highlight was the black and white collection from Floorgrass. It was one of our recent introductions, and kind of like the textile companies, everybody wants to know what's new. You have to have new collections. There has to be product development going on constantly. And so at all of the trade shows, and we have two launches each year. We have a spring and a fall launch. And so everybody's interested in what's new. So the collection from Floorgrass that we're going to show you, the black and white collection.
Yeah.
Floorgrass is probably one of the largest Italian manufacturers. They're the Fiat. They're from very affordable to high end. They're really good design, and they always seem to have some of the best design that really covers lots of categories.
Mm-hmm.
The black and white collection is porcelain tile in a number of different shapes and sizes, and it's very bold blacks and whites, and it kind of echoes the very strong Nero Marquino black Spanish marble or any of the white Carraras. And so
wait, I've just gotten there. What? Okay. Oh my God, there's the wall of it. It looks amazing. Okay, I kind of want to touch and feel it, but that's where I get the sample.
And as you zoom in, you can get the technical information. You can see the different sizes that it comes in. We are partnered with Material Bank, where we do house lots of these samples. And so we like to communicate with our clients directly. And if they choose to use Material Bank, that's been a real plus for us.
And I like that you're showing the black and white, because that is very, very on trend, and is something that I think is the kind of thing that's going to look good forever, even though everyone wants black and white these days. Right? So
we're really happy with our partnership with Floorgrass. We've been working with them for over 30 years. They're a tremendous partner for us. And then Ron was going to take you through and show you this great new product from the Trend Group.
Okay. But, I have to say that even, because there is a bit more freedom in terms of color these days, but my designer friends who I think have the best hand using color are actually also always using black and white in their palettes. So black and white is forever.
Forever.
Forever. Okay, Ron.
We don't disagree. I think black and white, no matter what we do, is something we always have available. So when it's really introduced in a new way, that's good news.
I love it.
Also, as you're going through the showroom, and speaking of color, Trend is a terrazzo product. We're also have had a relationship with them for over 20 years. And when you come into the VR showroom, you could obviously look at the product. The other interesting thing, there's a measurement tool on the VR showroom. So if you wanted to be precise and understand what size piece you're looking at, you could actually do a measurement. And so you can realize this is what a 24 by 24, 24 by 48 tile actually looks like, and you can confirm that size with the tool, which is something that we had a lot of fun with.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so now I'm heading over to Terrazzo Land, which, by the way, oh my God, it's such a huge variety of colorways.
Tons and tons of colors, 52.
Oh my God.
Plus the ability to obviously do custom things, which we have done for certain quantities or specific clients. The newest thing for Trend, and the terrazzo is called Origina, is microband.
Okay, so explain microband for everyone out there who may not know what that actually means.
Super. Microban is an antimicrobial product. So it's we can say that it's fired into the product or just kind of built in when they are manufacturing. So it's continuously working. It's a 24 hour, 7-day a week tool inside the material. So it's always active and it's reducing growth of new bacteria. So you're cleaner between cleanings, depending on where you are. If you're in a hotel room, right, as an example, if you're certainly doing your kitchen countertops or pantry tops in office spaces as we go forward. Hopefully the restaurant. Yep.
Yeah, designers are really concerned about that right now. Also because their clients are very concerned about it, right?
Correct, and I think the attention to it happened very quickly, even for us, as we started to talk about it. And so we'll have that also as part of the VR showroom. You can click on to the Terrazzo products, and you can get all the technical details. You can get all the information on Microban, the lifetime, its extended product lifetime, all the things and characteristics that you need to know are all in this virtual world as well. In addition, they do all types of mosaics, and so you can kind of jump into the other products that Trend also does, which we typically sell in conjunction with the flooring. And this product is something we sell from, we just recently sold for an airport flooring. We've done, again, cafeteria. We've done hospitality. You can make countertops. So we're really continue to be excited about it, and the relationship has continuously grown. And I think the Microban is awfully timely in the world that we live in.
Yeah. Don't you think so? When we're talking about surfaces like safe or safer surfaces, it's again something that we, as designers, never really had to worry about in the past, and now it's just, the hot topic. So it's really important for you guys to educate the designers on that.
We certainly agree with that.
Okay.
Correct.
So thank you for that. Now I want to get to new, because designers are always interested in that. And first of all, Joe, tell us about this long-standing relationship with Mutina.
I think the best way to think of Mutina is that they're unlike any other company in their space. So I think of them as a design company, right? They're not a manufacturer, they're a designer. And while they do in-house design, they're really known for going and getting outside designers to help them design product for them. So predominantly, they're designing porcelain tile. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Brock, which is almost more like a brick or an object of art. But I think a little bit of the history is important. So as a design-driven company, we just had this, simpatico between them, and we really enjoy each other's company, and we've always been delighted by their products. And the fact that they go outside of kind of the normal industrial design quotient to get new designs. So they go to people like Patricia Urquiola, the Spanish-born Milan-based designer who designs hotels and furniture and carpets and textiles, and is very prolific. And so when she had the opportunity to design tile, I promise you it looked like no other tile anybody had ever seen. Okay. So that was kind of the initial interest. And you know Patricia, and you know her.
I know Patricia, and I have a bunch of bathrooms with Mutina. I was so excited by the collection that anytime I went into your showroom, I would sell designers on it too. I had the Azoulay.
Azoulay, yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so Patricia Urquiola, Barber, and Osgerby had done 2 collections recently that have been very successful. They're British industrial designers, have designed the torch for the Olympics in the UK. They design furniture. They've gone to Toguchin Yoshioka, and that's a Japanese designer. So each of the designers that they've gone to, oftentimes we're designing tile for the first time. And so literally it's just every new design is something that delights us. And when we bring it to our clients, we get that same look. They say, I've never seen anything like this. They're a smaller company compared to like a Floorgrass. So, they're the Ferrari to the Floorgrass of the Fiat. And Mutina is much more boutique-y. High design, really unique. And for things like flooring and walls with hard surfaces, sometimes the regular stuff is just not as dynamic.
Wait, Joe, do you guys remember that we had lunch together? This was years ago now. And you pulled out a tile at lunch from Patricia with Mutina, and it was like the first kind of like off dirty pink before that became huge. It was like the first tile that ever landed in the US that had that tone, and you guys were like, what do you think? And oh my God, talk about being right on trend and starting the trend, frankly.
That was the Tiaras collection, and you know what I remember from the lunch is I called the color peach, and you promptly corrected me and said, no, blush.
Right.
And so from then on, blush is my go-to term with anything that's in that colorway. And obviously you hosted our event here with when Patricia was here. I think that's six years ago already.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah. So you think about when blush wasn't like a color, like, yes. Right? When it was like, whoa. So that was a long time ago. Now it's like, oh, blush.
Well,
exactly.
And here's a funny story about Mutina in general. We always introduce their new products as our new products, right? We have this, and they have new products every year, and we're always featuring their new products. Sometimes their new product introduction does not sell the first year, but it sells the second year and the third and the fourth year. And that's because if they're at the very forefront of kind of design philosophy or colorway, sometimes it literally can take 6, 9, 12 months. Other products sell right away. And so we've both agreed, both companies, that we withhold judgment, because if they're early, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means the rest of the world has to catch up. And so that's been our experience.
First of all, that's so smart of you. I completely agree, because I think sometimes the most exciting things are ahead of the trend, and you have to give people time to catch up. And that's why sometimes collections that you're so smart to hold on, because sometimes amazing ideas are in the back room somewhere because it didn't sell right away.
Yes.
Brilliant. All right, so you're going to say, okay, let's get to some news.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. Ron's going to talk about the bra collection.
Okay, so I know this is an artist, right?
This is an artist, Natalie Dupasquier. And the interesting note is Natalie was one of the original founders of Memphis in Milan, right? And so imagine the think tank that was in the early 80s, and you still see their product being sold today, and the use of color and making furniture and making textiles and carpets. So Natalie, since 1987, has been a painter. And one of the first things she did with Mutina was create these brick towers. And they had an art exhibit. So it wasn't even making tile. It was for an art exhibit that she did in their premises. And Mutina has changed their DNA as well. So they're also aligning art in addition to making tile. And it's a passion of Massimo, the owner. Very, modern art driven. He loves all of the incredibly peculiar things in some cases, but clearly leading the industry with artwork. And so he told me this story about this wonderful person, and I met her, and she was born in France, but she's Milan, so she's really Italian. And Massimo is a very animated individual, if you remember. And he saw these towers, they call them, and they were made of brick. And she painted the brick in different colors, and just basically, there's 8 or 10 of them that they did this installation, and people just kind of flipped out. And he pursued her you have to make a tile line for us. And within 6 months, they actually had a collection together, which is very, very fast. And when you see it, I think the tile is kind of treated as artwork. So when you see these pieces and patterns of one of these other new things called Margarita, it's pretty incredible. The one that's over my shoulder is more homage to what she built in these towers with brick, So it's terracotta. It's an extruded terracotta, so a historical building product, right? It's been used forever. And she's basically created this idea that you could play with light inside a space. It's obviously just a false wall, if you call it something like that. You could be framed, meant as a partition and that sort of thing. But it's a sculpture. And so one of the other things we did in the showroom to shoot the VR showroom is we wanted to build these. Then there's two displays, one with Celosia, which is Patricia's product in terracotta, and then the Brock. And so actually in the VR showroom, you can walk around the piece. So like you would do in a museum, right? So if this was on display, you could physically walk around the piece. So we've accomplished that in the VR showroom, and you'll be able to see that. But
so a couple things. So it's how many colorways does it come in?
you have 5 colors. There's the Argilla, if you can see just the plain terracotta, and then there's 4 glazed colors. The glazes are done by hand. If I could grab one, this may be your favorite one.
Gorgeous.
This is called Salvia. And basically, they kind of hang the terracotta piece, and it's sprayed by hand to get the glaze. It's pretty incredible. So the glazed product you can put outside. The regular terracotta, because there's too much absorption, would just be an interior product. But you can do vertical installation, as you can kind of see behind me. You could do horizontal, or even the pieces interlock.
Beautiful.
So really pretty fascinating, one piece creating all these type of designs. We're really excited about it.
Ron, it's for commercial and residential, right?
Commercial, residential, again, lobby spaces. We've sold the Celosia for people who have done the front of cash wraps in front of bars. There was a hotel we did in Hawaii where they painted the name of the hotel like on top of the pieces. So I think it's this creative item of a very traditional product. We're really excited about it. It's a lot of fun, and getting to learn about Natalie has been also a fun idea. And we'll have a new product from them coming up early next year that she's designed. So we're very excited.
I want to meet Natalie. Sounds amazing.
Me too.
Designers will love this because anything in modules that they can create, give them a DNA, give them something to start with, and then sky's the limit. I love that it creates architecture within spaces and the light coming through. It's beautiful.
No, that's a great point. And I think a lot of times when I look at product or think about product, you want to give the designer that opportunity, right?
I always say, give a designer A, B, or C, and they'll always go for D. So you got to let them have their D.
Got to let them have fun. Absolutely.
So what's give a last word on Brock?
Well, I think that the idea of what the finished product is going to look like is limitless.
Exactly. Okay, so we're going to do a quick recap. First of all, amazing new technology with the virtual showroom. So designers, you really can see what's happening. You can use your phone and scan the products. Don't worry about sampling because our friends at Stone Source work with Material Bank. And then there are collections that you're always going to want to specify from. There's the black and white, there's Terrazzo, and then this new Mutina collection called Brock. Amazing. I want some. Look. Guys, look.
Yes, exactly.
Hello.
We've been admiring that for months, Cindy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic.
Well, listen, it was so much fun. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ron, for sharing and being a leader in this industry and supporting the designers in this way with new tools, new product. We need it. We need to stay inspired, and you guys definitely inspire us.
Thanks so much, Cindy.
Great to see you, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. We'll get on the other side of this one.
We will.
For sure.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Hi, I'm Katherine Given, Senior Style and Market Editor at Luxe Interiors and Design Magazine. Thank you so much for tuning into our Kitchen Confidential segment on Design TV. I am very excited to be chatting today with Karen Williams, the creative director at St. Charles, New York, who has been designing stunning award-winning kitchens for some time and has really ushered St. Charles, the makers of luxury kitchens, into a new era. So Karen, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I know the company has sort of a storied history, and Karen, you have a fascinating background as well, but can you just tell us a little bit about St. Charles and all that you do?
Sure. Well, I started out after I had finished a couple of years at FIT. I was going to break new ground in the interior design world. However, the first job that I got was in kitchens. And they really weren't being designed at that time, or at least to be considered designed. But surprisingly, I found kitchens fascinating. I found them very interesting and challenging to design. So I decided to, stay with it a little longer. I thought I'd stay there a year, and here I am 40 years later, and, I'm still there. But the company of St. Charles has a very interesting background because it's certainly one of the oldest, most fascinating kitchen companies around. As a matter of fact, this year we're going to be celebrating our 85th year.
Wow,
and
congratulations.
I know, my goodness, it's very exciting. And they were one of the first companies to be considered a St. Charles kitchen as opposed to a product. So they really had, an interesting hold on kitchens. And, they had done some of the most admired architects' work. They were one of the first specified for, Frank Lloyd Wright and Miles van der Rohe. They did projects like the Governor's Mansion and the Palace Hotel. So I was very intrigued with, I thought kitchens weren't, that important. And wow, look what they're doing. So I pursued my career working for St. Charles, applying and really being challenged, by what has happened in kitchens.
I mean, and now you, correct me if I'm wrong, own the company, really.
We do. That is correct. My partner and I own the company. As I say, I started there in 1979. And, I've really witnessed the transformation of how kitchens have evolved and developed, which is fascinating, in and of the whole of how, design works and how kitchens work and how they really went from being just not a significant room in the house to the most significant room, a major transformation for sure.
I agree. I mean, we talked about this a little bit, Karen, but right now, obviously, the kitchen is more important than ever. We're spending so much time at home, and there's been some discussion around this. But, I want to hear your take. You're such a pro. How do you see sort of the new kitchen evolving or moving forward? Really now the kitchen is the heart of everything. But I think there will be some changes in the future.
Well, what I've witnessed, pre-COVID was that it went from the small room in the back of the house to a room that was kind of coming more in the forefront of the house. The introduction of the island made a huge step. People were able to engage and have family members come in. Then we had the open floor plan concept, which was wonderful. And I think now there is going to be a new kitchen design. We already know the history. We know how significant it's been. We know how important it has become. But I think there are going to be some major, major changes. And some of the changes that I see is that people are now using and living in this space more so than ever. So we're going to see larger informal kind of dining and eating areas as the whole family is gathering, where before what was the breakfast nook is no longer going to be the breakfast nook. It's going to be an informal dining area, a breakfast area. It's going to be a much more purposeful area for families to gather and to, include everyone. I think we're also going to see, which I think is interesting, people coming that saying, I don't cook, kitchen's not that important. I think there's going to be a major turnaround to say, I still don't cook, but I realize how important this is.
Important.
It's still important. You may not cook, but you eat and you gather. So I think that that's going to have people who didn't think they were as interested, extremely interested in what's happening, with this kitchen design. I think we're going to see more of an interest in the appliances that they select. What are they really looking at? Because everyone needs to use it. We're looking for appliances that are more user-friendly, where the teenager can use it, the people in the house can use it, guests can use it. So the whole introduction and the appliances that are selected are going to be very important. What we're seeing in reference to the COVID is, how do we preserve food? How is that going to change what we do? It's going to be very difficult to say, I get my food delivered in an hour for dinner. That has changed for sure. It's changed because of, obviously what's happening in society right now, but it may change as well because people are learning to cook and learning to use their equipment and learning to enjoy some more family time. But what we're going to see are foods and appliances that will preserve food, will maintain the nutrients of it, will be able to be stored longer than they were initially. So I think we'll see something with maybe these shock freezers that freeze food and really keep in all the nutrients and preserve them for a longer period of time. I think we're going to see a throwback to old-fashioned pantries and larders. People are going to want to have flours and baking needs and things that they can store, that can be preserved, maybe even to the extent that they'll want, cool rooms. We used to call them the old-fashioned root cellars.
Wow.
So what
Like
they can
larders, right? Like
the
places.
larders, exactly. That's what a larder was.
Wow.
So it was a cooler room, and we all know that things preserve longer there. So you can have oils and vegetables and things that will just last longer in these type of areas that will be designed into the kitchen. So those are some of the changes that I see. More storage, back to the freezer in the basement kind of concept.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
What are we going to do with things? So it's going to be on the designer's end to make it certainly beautiful and attractive and functional, but it's going to meet these needs that people have learned to not panic and try and store things, but to store them the right way, the proper way, to keep the nutrients, keep all of preserve them for a longer period of time. So those are some of the things that I'm going to say.
And then Karen, obviously health is also top of mind, and I know things like coppers and bronze have antimicrobial, properties. Do you think more metals will now be introduced back into the kitchen? I know there always were, but I feel like, there used to be like surfaces that were metal.
Well, I think people will be more tolerant of those surfaces. And yes, we will be specifying that. And what I mean by that is stainless steel, for example, one of my favorite materials. Stainless steel has been around forever. And the reason that they use it in restaurants and, hospitals and all of those things is because they don't get bacteria. They don't have mold. They last for a very long time. They're impervious to just about anything you can do to them, heat resistant, but they scratch. And people say, I don't want to see scratch. It will scratch for sure. And like a new car, the first scratch is always hard to see. And after a while, it's patinaed and they cost you extra. So I think we're going to see a bigger tolerance for surfaces like that. Not only in the metals, certainly coppers, all of those great metals are really good. That's why we make, roofs out of them and counters and things that we've been doing for a long time. So I think we will be seeing more of the introduction of those into kitchens, more of the tolerance for what they do because of the benefits that they provide. Any of the non-porous surfaces will have a stronger input. How do we clean them? Bacteria is not going to grow on. So we're going to see that coming into kitchen design as well, because this is a health crisis first and foremost. And then we have to look at that first and then bring in the element of design. How do we make it look beautiful and certainly, last for a very long time and meet all the needs that we want.
About it. Yeah.
We have to be very thoughtful and mindful about what we're designing and what we're putting in there.
Certainly. So Karen, I want to pivot for a moment and talk really about all the special touches you incorporate in your designs. I know you have a lot of fun with what you do, which I love to hear.
I do.
The new St. Charles collection was really about having a little fun, right, in the kitchen, and also taking some of the guesswork out for consumers, since I realize, kitchen design can be pretty daunting. But can you talk a little bit about the collections?
Yeah, the collection is just, I've been doing this for quite a long time. And I thought, well, what do I do with all of this knowledge? What was it that made St. Charles so successful back in the day when it was there. And what it was really a very basic concept. If they offered choices that were good choices. They were purposeful, mindful, well thought out choices that gave the homeowner, the architect, and the designer options to choose from so that they could, personalize it and customize it to their needs, but demystify it at the same time. And especially now, when you have so many choices, there are no choices at all because you just get overwhelmed with them. So I really wanted to take these finishes, take this and kind of focus on the design, the technology, and the solutions of the kitchen and make it a fun project for the client and the homeowner. Come in and say, oh, here are these metal finishes, here are these woods in this. And you can, interact with them and play with them and make it really what you want it to be, but from these very educated choices that I've put together for you with all of these years of knowledge. And now I will be incorporating all the things we spoke about earlier that, from a healthcare standpoint, and just say, these are all good choices. It's going to be pretty hard to make a bad combination of these choices and bring the fun back into it. I love it. And I think that more and more people are going to, if they enjoy the process, it'll be fun. The kitchens are great. We know how important they are. So let me worry about the technology, the health end of it. Let me give you the good choices that you have and you just play with it and put it together. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, the kitchen should be a happy place. And the collections are beautiful. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But I thought we'd end in something that's kind of fun and do a little bit of like a rapid fire because, I love your take. You're such a wealth of knowledge. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and just say whatever pops into your mind. Okay.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah, it's not dangerous, I promise.
I get it.
One thing every kitchen needs.
Well, I know that not every kitchen can have it, but I'm a steam oven fan. I think every kitchen needs a steam combination oven. I think they're wonderful. And on a smaller appliance need, or my kind of go-to is a very simple, basic thing, is a hand mixer. We all know the Cuisinart. We all get the food processor. A quick hand mixer to mix something is a really handy thing. So I would say a hand mixer is the one thing you always want to have. And they've kind of gone away and people don't think about them anymore. So easy to use. Put it together. Whip something up.
There you go.
That would be my number one.
What about a kitchen trend that should never come back?
Oh, there are so many. I have to be careful on what I touch on. I think oversized islands. I think we're seeing a lot of combination islands. We're seeing kitchens with 2 islands and, more than just one large island, but a larger island and a smaller island. I think that's a trend that we would like to get away with. One of the ones that's been a pet peeve of mine since I guess the early 80s, and I did it, so I'm guilty of it as well, but granite countertops with matching granite floors. It was like,
interesting.
Oh my gosh, there was so much movement in a countertop and then you put it together on a floor. But that's showing my age a little bit, but that's one thing I would like to see go away. But I think oversized islands would be the number one choice.
Okay, Karen, and what's something that's always in your refrigerator?
Wine.
There you go. And last but not least.
Wait, let me just, I just want to expand on that so it doesn't get taken the wrong way.
Okay.
But cooking wine, because as a cook, every pan is deglazed. And if you put a little bit of wine, and only if it's handy, you don't want to open up a bottle, you can deglaze every pan, regardless of what the pan is, be it copper, whatever you're using, cast iron, you deglaze the pan and it makes for a perfect ending. And that's why I say wine.
Well, you're a real chef. I mean, for me, it's just
cooking.
But and last but not least, Karen, describe your kitchen in 3 words.
Designed for living.
Oh, there you go. Well, Karen, I love chatting with you about kitchens and what's to come. A big thank you for joining us on Design TV, and to our viewers, stay tuned for what's next. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
So we are here today to explore how the current climate in the world has shifted behaviors in the home and has impacted our kitchen spaces. we are going to take a deep dive with top residential leaders to examine the motivation behind how they design for the functional needs and emotional well-being of their clients, both for the here and now and looking ahead to the future. Before we begin today's discussion, I'd like to thank our partners at Thermador. For more than 100 years, Thermador has delivered bold design, unmatched performance, and exceptional innovation in the kitchen and beyond. Now, with that, I would love to introduce my panelists. Welcome to the screen if you guys want to come up. So, Andrew, Ron, Jamie, Sarah, thank you. I will introduce each of you. So Andrew Kotchin, founding principal of Workshop APD in New York City. So for more than 2 decades, Andrew's distinct aesthetic vision has shaped Workshop APD's remarkable portfolio of projects across North America and abroad. Under his leadership, the design and architecture firm has expanded into a vertically integrated team renowned for its luxury residences, multifamily developments, hospitality projects, and now design products. Andrew holds a Bachelor of Arts from Lehigh University and a Master of Architecture from the University of Michigan. Andrew has served as a visiting professor at Pratt Institute and as a visiting critic at the New York Institute of Technology, Columbia University, Parsons School of Design, and the University of Michigan. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Sarah Robertson, founder and principal of Studio Dearborn in Westchester County. After earning her BA and MBA from Northwestern and her second MBA, she's one smart cookie, as a consultant with McKinsey, Sarah left the corporate world to pursue her true passion, which is renovating and building homes. Studio Dearborn has emerged as a highly sought after source for kitchen design expertise, completing hundreds of projects and developing a global following in the process. Sarah's dedication to innovation and startups in the industry has led to a brand ambassador role with Docking Drawer, as well as Renovation Angel, where she's proud to be recognized for her commitment to sustainable building practices. Welcome, Sarah. And we should all, well, at least for me, get on my virtual airplane and head to the West Coast. And with Ron Woodson, founder and principal of Woodson and Rummerfield in Los Angeles, California. So growing up with parents in the music industry in Los Angeles, Ron was exposed to the homes of many tastemakers from an early age. With more than 15 years of experience in the design industry, Ron is ever exploring new materials, furniture forms, colors, and fixtures, always with a nod to the past. He attended the UCLA School of Interior Design and was named one of the top 20 Black designers in the US. Ron's passions span a bunch of architectural forms from ultra-modern, Regency style, Spanish, and mid-century architecture. And of course, to his lovely partner, Jamie Rummerfield, founder and principal of Woodson and Rummerfield. With a Bachelor of Science in Design from Arizona State University's prestigious College of Architecture, Jamie has a signature California sensibility rooted in classic design training, mixed with a fashion-forward design approach. Her creative eye is focused on the science behind color, texture, balance, proportion, and scale that is applied to creating memorable spaces. Much of her passion and inspiration is derived from the theatrics of Hollywood, namely the glamour of the silver screen and the romantic bygone era of film. So welcome all, it's so lovely to have you here. And I know, Andrew, you were saying this is like your first virtual call in 9 months, correct?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this technology. I didn't think it was possible these days. It's amazing.
I think we've all learned how to adapt to this. And you know what, I always joke, at least the silver lining of this is that all of us can be in different places right now, right? So, sure. And actually have this conversation. But Andrew, I was gonna start with you and starting off big picture. So with the changing and challenging times, how are you seeing design shift and how has this affected your overall design practice? And I know for you specifically, you actually have a thought about whether your design has even changed during this time period.
Yeah, I'm not, I've been chatting with a bunch of people through this time, and I think what's important for people to understand is that projects oftentimes take 1, 2, 3, and 4 years. So many of our clients have more of a longer view. certainly conversations around COVID and this idea of being home and the vision of wanting to be home more, even when we come out of this, is probably the biggest change that I've seen in clients. They're more into it. They're more connected to it. They see it through a different lens. I wouldn't say there's been a specific effect on design vision and design approach that we've sort of implemented, because again, we've started projects long before this. Projects are starting now, and hopefully they're going to continue on beyond it. From a business standpoint, I think the interaction in the design culture has changed a lot. Obviously, design is something that you enjoy doing face to face. There's this collaborative nature in the culture of our office. That's something that we've worked really hard to maintain through this digital screen that we're all looking at right now. And you certainly lose a little bit of the texture and grit and fire and energy that happens in an office environment. And also with our clients, the interaction, it's different. We've managed it, as I'm sure everybody has, and we have found, quite frankly, this works. It works well. Business can move forward. Things don't have to stall. In fact, earlier on in the pandemic, I think people were super available. So there was, this constant engagement. I called it like quarantining. Like people wanted to tinker all the time because they had nothing to do except call the design team and say, hey, I was rethinking this. And so we worked our way through that. But I think it's more about just preserving a culture that is something that you don't ever want to lose. And with no sort of end in sight to this, we've been very focused on doing exercises, doing things as a group to maintain that sense of energy and camaraderie that the screen doesn't allow you to adhere to.
So Sarah, I think Andrew touched on some of the challenges for his firm. I mean, did you have other specific challenges that you had within your own design practices? And I'm also curious if you found that there's actually been some sort of benefits or positive moments that have come out of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've experienced both positives and negatives. And what's funny, just reacting to what Andrew was saying about how, he's working with the team and how you've sort of had to learn to work, virtually and apart from your team. Whereas I work by myself, I work solo. So actually, the first week of our shelter in place, my husband walked into my office and took one look at me and he said, Sarah, nothing's really changed for you, has it? As I'm sitting there staring at my computer. So, I just feel like the whole access to Zoom has actually been, in some strange way, has been helpful for me with some of my client meetings, because a lot of the work that I do, I'm a kitchen designer now. Just to backtrack, I'm not building buildings any longer. I've been in the kitchen design business now for 10 years. But so my focus is very kind of, completely focused on kitchen design and a lot of the technical aspects of how our kitchens work. So I find it easier for my clients to focus on those really kind of boring technical aspects of, how our cabinets are designed and what our clearances are in a Zoom call than they are when we're in person and they're sort of able to let their eyes drift around, and maybe they're distracted by the samples we're going to be talking about. And that's all so much more fun than thinking about, where we're going to be putting the utensils or the compressor on the refrigerator. So from that aspect, it's been really helpful for me to have these more focused kind of technical work sessions, and also sort of have really clear cut kind of beginning and end, which is also helpful because they can be very long. Mm-hmm. But on the negative and challenging side, now that we're making a lot of these decisions more virtually, and even if I'm with clients, we're spending more time online making buying decisions. And the biggest buying decisions that we're making in kitchen design are the appliances, really. It's the second biggest line item in every kitchen I design, next to the cabinetry. And the cabinetry, I'm able to, inform my clients with my own videos and that sort of thing, if I need to kind of fill gaps on how things work. When it comes to appliances, I feel like there's this gap in information online in terms of how appliances work and function, and kind of trying to take the place of that, being able to go into an appliance dealership and really touch and feel. So I'd love to see appliance manufacturers really think about how they can do some online videos, some online comparisons. Just, the way if you go to buy a dress online, you can now see 6 pictures of it, plus you can see a video of someone walking around in it, and you're only spending $200 on a dress. But, we're spending $5,000 on an oven, and it'd be awesome to see some more of that information in video form. So.
Well, I'm sure Thermador is listening with open ears right now about that. I wanted to actually, so we've actually gotten to our first question for our audience. So for all of you at home, so have current circumstances changed how you as designers work with clients? So yes or no?
Yes.
And that's the thing. So I was going to actually direct this question to you, Ron and Jamie. So you have a project in Marin County that you've been working on during this time period. So how have you really adapted your design process for this residence, which have you been doing completely virtually?
Well, we started, as Andrew mentioned, most of our projects are 2 years in the making. And this project is one of them. We've been working on this project almost a little over a year. But we had gotten to a phase right before the lockdown and the pandemic where we had to make some hard decisions on some design choices. And we weren't able to, one, get samples to show to the client. Typically, this is a client that we've had for a long time. This is our probably 4th project with them. So they know us, we know them really well. But we had to show them samples. So first of all, we couldn't get the samples that we needed to show them. And then once we had to get double samples. So what we did was we put a packet together for us and a packet together for the client. We shipped that packet to them, and then we did several Zoom calls like this, and we numbered and lettered all of the samples. And it was a big undertaking. It was a big design process that we did. Literally we would sit in front of a client and do this, and it took well over 2 hours. And sometimes with clients, even when you're sitting with them, they glaze over. And we had a lot to show them, but we prefaced it, we could do this over a couple of days so you wouldn't be too inundated and lose focus. But it worked really well because they were able to touch and feel the samples. We had great tear sheets. We even had pricing for them. We had proposals for them.
We told her, don't open it until we're talking to you. So don't go digging through and taking it all out.
Or they probably did sneak in there just a little bit.
Probably.
She does what we say. So she didn't. But we did tell her this was going to be like Christmas for her. And it worked really well. Our clients here in Los Angeles, we have started seeing them very, very safely, and it's working out.
I think we thought projects would maybe go away or stop, and I think maybe there was the unknown for about a week, and they all came roaring back, even though we were in a lockdown here in Los Angeles, and we continuously there's new project requests weekly. We're just like, what, people must be just staring at their homes, analyzing what they want to change. And so it's super busy here, and we just work remotely with most all of our clients. Ron and I really are conservative when it comes to the social distancing. We're really trying. And here in Los Angeles, it's so dense that it's the norm to see streets somewhat empty or masks on everybody. So everyone's doing their part here, and doing construction, it's not a parallel. It's hard to do full on construction projects and client work at full bore when you're in a pandemic.
No, I totally get it. And But it's interesting, Stephanie even sort of touched on it in her presentation, just the rise of the amount of renovations that are happening in the residential work. And like, Andrew, I know that you guys kind of straddle the commercial and the residential world. And I'm sure, I mean, are you feeling the effects and like making up for maybe the commercial work in residential, or?
Yes, I mean, I think I feel like we're in the third wave of the pandemic. There was the early period where we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. The world's going to end. And then, okay, we'll get our new footing. Everybody will work remotely and work is here and we're going to be fine for a period of time looking forward. And really the summer has been the opposite of what I think we could have ever predicted. We're very, very busy on the residential side. Like you said, Jamie, our phone is ringing sort of constantly, which is bizarre. I wouldn't have thought it, for not jobs that are immediate jobs, for jobs that are 2-3 years out. So people are just, I think a lot of people came off the sidelines, decided they wanted to see their home through a different lens, whether it be their primary home, second home, or third home. And, you know, the idea, this notion of restoring family was something that a lot of people talk about, and really thinking generationally for their kids and their grandkids, and creating something that's lasting. And that has really been an influential catalyst for new work. Aside from the fact that people have made a lot of money and they want to get money out of the markets and the economy, I don't need to get into the geopolitical side of all this, but there's all those other reasons why I think on the residential side, we all are probably benefiting from a real shift in sort of dollars back into the home, which is honestly amazing. I'm not complaining. The other side of this looks much worse, like 2008. So it's great. And that's when and in 2008 is when we decided to diversify, where we were primarily just a residential firm and we felt very vulnerable and we wanted to make sure we pushed into commercial work and hospitality work. And I think we're fortunate enough to do that over the past 10 years. But now we're seeing that cycle sort of turn back, and we feel very fortunate that residential work is still sort of our main focus and our bread and butter work. And our clients are, you know, a great diverse bunch of folks. So it's definitely been an interesting time from that standpoint.
Well, Sarah, I'm sure you're also just feeling it in the kitchen sphere alone. And, you know, because we're all spending so much time at home, like what are some of the new behaviors you're seeing in the kitchen and sort of the functionality? Because I'm sure all of you are seeing this. It's like maybe how you were designing a home or a kitchen last year maybe is different this year, correct?
I think that the design focus hasn't shifted so much, but it's really been nuanced by the fact that people have been, in many cases, you know, locked up sort of in their homes. In some cases with siblings or children, grown children, their grown children's families. And they're really starting to think more about their home, you know, in this multi-generational sort of way, and say, you know, some of these things that we thought were great are now not working for us. So what I'm seeing people really thinking about in terms of kitchen design is really, you know, it tends to be increased capacity. To a certain degree, it's about space utilization as well, and thinking about, okay, now I'm not the only one in the kitchen. Now there are 2 or 3 people in there at one time. And so thinking about things down to clearances and looking harder at where appliances are located. It also gets you to that, the presentation Stephanie did earlier with, you know, refrigeration, the bedroom and so on. People are now looking for sanctuaries away from all these other people that are in their homes that didn't used to be there. So I am seeing, you know, more requests for coffee and refrigeration in bedrooms. But, you know, but back to the kitchen, yeah, it's so important to be able to think ahead and say, you know, what do we potentially need going forward that we may not have needed in the past, in terms of whether it's refrigeration, storage, or even just a layout that accommodates this, you know, this broader concept of family. And I think that people are seeing that as a long-term trend. You know, we have an aging population where we are now thinking about, you know, baby boomers moving in with their kids, and you know, I think we're going to see that dynamic, and I think people are kind of welcoming that back as well, and just that sense of holding family closer to you.
Well, Sarah, you just touched on it, but I do have a second poll question for our audience. And just about the sort of, are you now seeing rooms that were previously add-on ancillary spaces becoming more must-have or essential spaces within client designs? So obviously yes and no. And actually for our audience too, if you want to use the Q&A function to leave a comment about some of these rooms, whether it's a home bar or a gym, or of course, a coffee machine in our bedrooms that we all need, we welcome those. But, you know, Andrew, I wanted to direct this to you. So expanding upon that question, actually, so are you finding the boundaries between indoor and outdoor living are being blurred? Because one sort of, I don't want to call it ancillary space, is certainly the use of the outdoors. And I know that you guys are finishing up a Nantucket home that really speaks to this.
I think absolutely. And I think that's always been something that's important to people. But you know, even in my house, you know, this notion of the outdoor space and entertaining with friends outside and not letting people in your home is something where I do believe instant gratification can occur through more comfortable furniture, heat lamps, things like that. Outdoor activities have definitely sort of congregated around that line between indoor and outdoor, so that we're activating and using those spaces, you know, far more than I think folks did in the past. And certainly any good design of a home where if it has a view or has beautiful outdoor space, that connection is important. But it's definitely taken new meaning where everybody's going to be entertaining outside probably long into December, whether they like it or not, because you'll wear a coat, you'll hang out by a fire pit. For us East Coasters, you West Coasters, you'll be just fine. But on the East Coast, we have to really think about the cold and what's going to happen. And that line, and even, you know, tying it back to the point of this conversation today, the kitchen, I think that extension of the indoor kitchen to the outdoor entertaining space, to these outdoor kitchens and outdoor zones filled with appliances, is something that's been extremely popular. People want a seamless transition to their activity zone, whether it be by a pool or by sort of a lounging area, and make sure that, as you were saying, Sarah, everything is right there. And I think as the video was saying before, that sort of micro appliance packages are very popular in creating those sort of pods around the home, so you have everything at your fingertips. I think as we're staying home, you know, we're getting lazier, but trying to exercise at home. But there's like this laziness of, you know, you said it, Helen, you need a coffee maker in your room, but, you know, I mean, everybody wants everything at their fingertips. I think it's an interesting conversation to have with people about the redundancy of things.
Well, our audience, so for the poll, so 89% of our participants have said that yes, in fact, they are seeing a rise of these sort of ancillary spaces. So, but I want to open it up to the group too. I mean, just in terms of, I know Sarah already touched on it, but like, are Jamie and Ron, are you seeing other people and or other designs and other clients asking for this? These, you know, let's beef up these home gyms, or let's expand. I mean, I'm sure on the West Coast you're already having huge backyards, but how do we even expand more to the outdoor space for entertaining and living?
Well, living in Southern California, even more so than Northern California, indoor-outdoor living is key. And we do this in every single project that we do because of our weather and our lifestyle here in Los Angeles. But we are seeing more people asking for gyms. We have a project that we may talk about a little later, and there's a full gym in that house that's going to be completely redone because of the time that we're in with the pandemic. I mean, people just are not wanting to go out and be in those social settings that we once did. So those are reflected now in their homes. And again, so oftentimes here in Los Angeles, you have these really large homes that, you know, people put bowling alleys in and basketball courts and all of these items that I used to always think, you're never going to use that equipment in a house. I mean, who wants to stay in a house that much? But now with where we are in these times, those items are extremely popular.
I think we've seen a shift in priorities. People are spending more time with family and wanting quality experiences inside the home, whereas maybe it would be outside or trips or vacations. They're making the home that destination. And so upgrading maybe forgotten projects or these additional spaces and making more room for family time or parties at home together. You definitely see this focus change inward.
So we have one audience member, MK Bedell. She said that bars, outdoor entertaining spaces, and mudrooms are essential for her projects. So thanks, MK, for answering that. But we're speaking regionality. So obviously in California, you guys do get a lot more time outside. But there is one thing that you do experience that perhaps we don't have on the East Coast, which is those extreme fires, unfortunately, which is a huge shame. But Ron and Jamie, I know you guys actually have been working on a project in California that was almost completely burned down by the Woolsey fire 2 years ago. And just curious about that specific project. I mean, have your clients asked for the residence to be designed in a similar fashion to how it was? Or have they taken the time now, especially during the pandemic, to sort of reevaluate how they live and the needs they need for this home?
Well, it's interesting. This client has owned this house for 20 plus years. And it's an interesting story. He never really liked the house previously. He bought it for a previous fiance of his, but kept it at the same time. It's in Malibu, for God's sakes. It's so desirable. So he came to us just before the fire and wanted us to redo it. And the fire happened, and we're going to change the house completely. It had Spanish overtones, but we're really going to take it to a really beautiful Spanish style home. So it is going completely different. And it was going to go different before, but the fire just really exacerbated that. And it just,
helped.
There is so much damage in the house. There's water. I mean, the firemen, when they came in, the house didn't completely burn to the ground. So it was, the majority of the house is salvageable. But when the firemen came in and hosed the whole house down, and then the house was closed for a period of time, there's mold all throughout the house. So we have had to completely gut the house. There's a lot of work that's going to be done before we can even get to the interior design side. And we've been working with a great contractor that we've worked with for many, many years, but we've had mold abatement in, we've had just you name it, contractors in the house before we can even touch it. So yes.
Luckily, the house, it was kind of this hodgepodge. I would say Miami Vice meets, Spanish beach, house. Malibu isn't known as much for its architecture. It's definitely second homes or beach houses, and it's a mix of beach bungalows that aren't really about architectural details, but it's just the way of life.
So need we say more?
Mm-hmm.
And so this gave us a great opportunity to redesign the whole house cohesively in a really fantastic way. So even though it's a tragedy, the win is coming out on the best side it possibly could. So we're excited for the potential it has.
Well, looking forward to seeing when it's done. Andrew, sort of continuing this conversation about regionality and shifting to the East Coast, because I know you do a lot of projects, you know, both in New York City and Nantucket. Can you say there's sort of a standard kitchen design or specific requests that your clients make depending on where they are, whether it's urban, suburban, beachy?
I think the notion of the pantry is something that has evolved, where it's turned into, there's the show kitchen and there's the work kitchen. A pantry is no longer a place where you just store dry goods and canned food that I don't think people eat anymore. But it's not, it was a cabinet, then it became a room, then it became a bunch of shelves. And now in many of our projects, there's actually a full second kitchen. It's just, you don't actually cook in the kitchen that you hang out in. The dirty work happens somewhere else, which is good for the appliance business. And you actually, and it just seems to be growing and evolving that, families are cooking in larger gatherings, not just because of the pandemic, but it's just a sort of a shift in the idea of cooking at home. And so there's these two spaces that have really evolved. And I think it doesn't matter what size the project is, there's this notion of having kind of the show space and then the workspace, and how you divide that up in a home or an apartment is really the challenge. Sometimes you're limited on square footage and sometimes you're not, but the need and the capacity for appliances and storage is what everybody's really looking for. And it's interesting because it's resulted in some really unique design opportunities that we've created. Additionally, I would say that this notion of the island has really changed. It's no longer just a monolithic block. It's something that, we're oftentimes embedding tables and sofas and comfortable seating in, and it's more of a focal point object rather than just a box that holds appliances and has a sink or a cooktop in it. It's how do we turn that into a real architectural or design feature within the home that can satisfy so many different needs as far as cooking, hanging out, dining, lounging, morning coffee, and all of these things, that it's actually been kind of fun to really rethink and reimagine how the island sort of sits in a home.
Well, certainly the kitchen has taken on this sort of multifaceted role that can be for entertaining and dining, and obviously now for work, which is really important for all of us. But this also brings up another poll question. And this is asking about how buying behavior in the luxury market. So are you seeing or not seeing a shift in high-end buying behavior? Are your clients buying down? Or are they taking this time, especially because they're spending more time at home, investing in those luxury brands? And I'm just wondering for you, Sarah, in kitchen mode, how, if at all, has buying behavior really shifted within the luxury market for you? I know earlier on the conversation you talked about appliances. Do you find that there is an emphasis on really adding more luxury into one's residence and in their kitchen spaces, given that it has this sort of versatile function? Or do you think that clients are really playing it safe and sort of going for low risk?
No, I'm definitely seeing more of an emphasis on looking not so much at luxury brands, but the way I think of it is really luxury features. So I think people are really digging more into the appliances as well as the other finishes that they're putting into their spaces, and really trying to gain an understanding of what the benefit's going to be to them, because they're potentially seeing themselves as home more and potentially seeing themselves as sharing their skin with other members of the family. So, that I think has really changed that whole purchase process. I'm definitely seeing a very recent sort of evolution in terms of the way people are investing their time and how they're thinking about making big investments in the kitchen space, particularly appliances, but also other luxury finishes where they might see, they're starting to see a real benefit in investing, I think, in quality. And I was touching on Jamie. She mentioned that people are kind of shifting their thoughts away from travel and more towards why the home is important, but they're also switching their budgets. Andrew was sort of mentioning how people's, the economics behind it, isn't lost on people. And no one's been able to spend money really on travel this year. Or if you have, it's amazing you found a place to go. But I've definitely had clients tell me that, hey, we didn't take our summer trip this year, so we're going to put the money into, the next level higher refrigerator or something, where they feel like they'll really have a benefit. So yeah, I'm definitely seeing people thinking that way. And again, that's, where people need to be able to really hone in on, so what makes these brands different from one another? How can I really figure out the different specifications? So so I'm excited about having more of those conversations with my clients as they focus more on being informed and making smart decisions.
And it sounds like based on the poll questions that a lot of the audience feels the same way, that people are really starting to invest in those luxury brands, and probably because they have the budgets to do it, because they're not traveling and probably investing in other ways. But kind of rolling that one into another poll question, I want to ask the audience, what are some key trends that you're noticing emerge out of the current climate? So wellness in the home, the importance of sanitization in the home, the future of connectivity, interior organization trends, and togetherness or entertaining as a family. I know all of you guys actually touched on this throughout the conversation. Certainly for the audience, if you want to add any comments to the Q&A for any trends that may or not listed in the poll question, let us know. But Andrew, I do want to direct this one to you, because health and wellness, which sort of that poll question touches on, is really a hot topic, which really has been infiltrating our lifestyle in so many ways, actually pre-pandemic. So, whether it's our workplace, the hotels where we're traveling, and yes, even in our homes. But, however, given this time period, have you found the idea of wellness has really increased the influence on how you design a home? And I know that you are sort of wrapping up your first project in Greenwich, Connecticut that sort of speaks to this.
I mean, absolutely. It's become, the kitchen used to be the heart of the home. I think wellness is now even more so the heart of the home. That there's definitely a lot of conversation around how exercise makes its way into your day and how that affects the flow through a home. So where these are placed, I think gyms used to get stuck in the back corner of the basement. You put a couple nice lights in and put up some wall board up and a mirror, and you felt like you had a home gym. Now those spaces are now moving to the ground floor. They are sitting in the prime place of the view of the home, whether it's an indoor pool, a spa, sauna, steam. They're really the bow of the ship. They're where people want to spend time, and they're no longer back of house. They're front of house spaces that will double as entertaining spaces. And it's really expanded into a full sort of 5-star boutique hotel resort, where whether there's a massage room in the gym and lockers for friends and family as they come over. I think it's fun, it's exciting, it's a very different design strategy and design approach, and there's a whole new crop of consultants out there to help you do ice baths and hot tubs in one, and how you navigate that through mechanical, like it's a whole complex matrix of components, but it's unique. And it's very interesting, but it is definitely now very forward thinking, very front of mind, and in a primary spot. So the basement dwelling approach is definitely something that is not as popular as it used to be. I think it's more about bringing those back of house spaces up front and center to the way you live and the way you can connect to the outside.
I just want to touch on the poll, because it was something that I think all of you spoke to, which is basically that really being at home, it's really more about the togetherness and the idea of entertaining, so which you guys all spoke to. So it's interesting, because we also obviously have figured out that people are not traveling, but what about for you designers? Because of course, during this time when we're sheltering in place, I know that maybe you're finding your inspiration. You can't do that through travels and your visits to global events. So Ron and Jamie, I know that I saw you in January, which feels like actually yesterday, but also almost a year ago at KBIS. But what impact do you feel this current time period will have on the future of trade shows and on travel in general, especially for you two?
Well, just had this conversation the other night with some colleagues, and I started counting the destinations that I would have been at by now, and I got up to almost 20 since I saw you last, actually since March. And so it is difficult. Me personally, I'm not really ready to get on a plane just yet. And so I've got to somehow figure how this is going to work because I'm going to have to soon. And trade shows, I just don't know how that dynamic is going to work, especially in the very near future. I mean, High Point is going on now, and we were invited to go, and I've seen some videos that people are featuring of their visit, and it is a very different time. So I am not sure how we're going to come to meeting in the middle for this subject, because it's a difficult one, because all of us want to touch and feel, and so many vendors are all over the world that you want to meet with. I mean, we've traveled with vendors literally all over the world, and it's going to be a while before that happens. So, but vendors are getting they're getting crafty with how they're introducing product. I mean, some vendors of ours have set up workshops and pop-up spaces where, small groups of us can go and look at the product. And I know that from a budgeting standpoint with some, that would be cost prohibitive, but it is working for some. And so it's just getting creative. But we're still in a phase of a huge learning curve on how we're going to adapt to what we're hoping isn't the new normal.
I think it's important for vendors to be sensitive to that, because these trade shows are super important to the whole trade as well as the companies and their businesses. So it is a challenging topic, and a lot of people are not comfortable going to these, and with these kind of made up timelines of like, oh, we're reopening, but what is that based on? And so we're about information and logical direction, and this going to a trade show is just not in the cards for us. We've been asked to do showcase houses, travel, and we're just saying no, because we're just not comfortable with it. And I think it's an opportunity for vendors to come up with something new. And maybe it's just the time that these trade shows look a little different anyway. Maybe we're just ready for the new wave of these types of presentations and the way you get information. And I think there's a big silver lining in the way we all can interact. I see so many of my East Coast colleagues and friends so much more now than I ever did, because we're connected in this way. And vendors who are in networks that we just have set calls or pods of people that want to hear about what's new. And people have kind of gone out and just made this happen, which maybe that outreach would not been there. So it's interesting to see what, what is it? The term necessity is the mother of invention. So it's coming up with something new. Plus traveling to High Point is not easy in general.
Yeah. Well, I obviously did not go to High Point, so I'll let you know. But it's interesting with KBIS around the corner and thinking about 2021 and what shows will or will not be happening. So I know we all have that big question mark sort of in our heads at the moment. I know we're sort of getting close to the end of our panel, and I actually thought it might be good to introduce and welcome Megan Spiez from the Thermador brand team. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a few questions from the audience that I want to throw out to Megan and also to the panelists. So the first one we have is from Leslie Gustafson. Are healthy, eco-friendly, or sustainable products being specified? So if any of you guys are thinking about that in terms of how you're specifying products for the home, are you focusing on specifically healthy, eco-friendly, or sustainable products at all?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We've been doing that well before the pandemic. Our clients are really staunch in a wellness home, and so down to new lighting and products, appliances, how they interact in the home. It's key in every single project we do now.
Sarah, did you have something to contribute?
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I'm not sure that our region, or at least my clients, are quite as focused on that yet. But one of the things that I'm trying to get them to focus on is sort of, managing the waste that comes out of renovating. And you have to figure that anytime you're ripping out and redoing, you're probably discarding a lot of things that might be useful to others. So that's kind of where the Renovation Angel thing comes in, with having people think about donating the kitchens and the appliances, because that's a huge, if you think about how much mass all of that stuff takes in a dumpster and a landfill, and a lot of them are still usable. So that's definitely something I've been trying to get people to think about, and also just think about how the materials that they're investing are made, and are they being made in a sustainable fashion. So just a couple things that I'm trying to get my clients to focus on a little more, but I think that the East Coast, West Coast mentality is a bit different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Megan, it'll be interesting to know from sort of a appliance perspective, and how does, if a client approaches you or a designer approaches you, looking for a healthier, sustainable product.
Yeah, and it's definitely a question that we know is facing a lot of our consumers. A lot of our products are made in the U.S., and we're very proud of that. So just having locally sourced products available to us, and we are working through some of those types of initiatives as a brand too.
So we have another question from Julie Rodriguez. I'm seeing the need for less open concepts due to the need for people to work and educate or learn, while others may be cooking, watching television. Are you guys seeing that yourselves, getting those types of requests in terms of the projects that you're working on?
I live it every day at home. I lock my son in his room with like a padlock and insulated pads, and absolutely. I mean, I think, yes, the point is the idea of the open plan certainly exists in primary spaces, but the individual spaces are certainly more called out. Obviously the home office is something that everybody's talked about for the past 6 months, and how, it used to be in the bedroom where you sat in the kitchen, but the need to have your own individual space where you can actually close a door and do a video chat and not feel as though the whole world in the house is climbing on top of you. I think it's more about the conversation about where do those activities and where do those zones occur within the home. If you're building a new home, if you're renovating, it's obviously very different, but certainly in our newer projects, there's a lot of organizational studies that go into sort of the adjacency of spaces and how they can certainly act in a more successful way based on where they're placed in the home.
Sarah, what about with you? Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, I think most of my clients are still very interested in this open floor plan, but they're thinking more about maybe flexible solutions where things can be opened up and then closed off. And I think that there's a bit more creativity required for the designer and the architect when you're trying to make these spaces be able to serve multiple tasks. And I kind of love that, whether it's designing flexible furniture or a flexible room situation or room dividers. But it's the sorts of challenges that people have been designing small spaces have kind of had all along, in terms of needing these spaces to be able to transition, to transform themselves. But now we're kind of requiring that of larger homes too. And I personally think it's kind of fun.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then I know, Megan, for you, I mean, because if people are having these smaller spaces and these ancillary spaces, you guys can accommodate any needs that are necessary on an appliance front.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you were at IBIZ, KBIZ last year. So we focused on that. We did different applications with wine columns in your closet or office area. And really, I mean, now it's kind of a little forethought, but thinking about like a space just for her with these, you know, get up in the morning, you start your day, you have the coffee, we've talked about that, and then you're unwinding at the end of the day with your glass of wine or under counter, which is a product that's incredibly transformative and can go anywhere really. So we encourage a lot of our designers, and we're encouraged by a lot of, as Steph shared, a lot of the inspiration that we see from designers in placing different products throughout the home. So definitely seeing that more and more now than ever.
So unfortunately, time goes really quickly. So, and we're a little bit over. So, but I just wanted to say, you know, a really heartfelt thank you to all of our panelists for being here today, for your time and your insight. Like I said, the silver lining of this whole experience is that we can be in New York and LA and Westchester and other places and actually come together and have this conversation. So thank you. And definitely a huge thank you to Thermador. You guys were an amazing partner for today. Thank you. And of course, to our audience, cheers. If you got the cocktails, make sure at least it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So go ahead and enjoy. And thank you guys for all joining us today.
Or hand sanitizer, or hand sanitizer.
Or use hand sanitizer, either way.
We want to thank all of you, and then also we do. I do want to address, Sarah. You made some great points about experiencing product, and I'd like to invite you all to experience our virtual showroom that's available on our website, where you can see interactive pictures of all of our different products, and then we have 360 views coming. So hopefully that can make your lives a little bit easier. Experience our products when you cannot be in our showrooms, and we wish you all the best, and thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.